Hey, nice to see you again. Welcome back to the channel. This is Steve with Creative Chaos with Steve, doing some more work on the IS-1 to IS-2 conversion. We've been working on the turret these last couple videos, and I just want to show you where we're at. This is the completed. This is the work we've got accomplished for today. We'll just pull them back a bit. Looking good. Got all the bits and bobs on the turret. There's some things I'm not going to put on until I get it painted, and there's some still cleanup I need to do that I'll do once the glue sets. But I've got a whole video about how we got there, and I didn't have my mic on, so I've got to do voiceover for that. So things happen. You guys sit back and enjoy the video. Thanks for spending some time with me, and hope you guys have a great week. All right, we'll see you in the video. All right, welcome back to the video here. We are going to start putting the turret bits on the IS-2. What we're going to start off with some of the smaller bits. And like I said, I've had to do the voiceover on this, so I'm going to give you a bit of history of the IS-1 and what happened with the IS-1 and why they ended up with the IS-2. But for the moment, we're just getting the pistol ports put onto the IS-2 turrets. These really just were plugs that were anchored on the inside of the vehicle. If you had problems with infantry or you were in an urban area, you could pop these plugs out and you were able to shoot out from the turret. Now, on the KV, I'm pretty sure there was vision slits for these, and also on the T-34 there were vision ports where you could actually see where you were shooting. But on the IS, you were just shooting blind. So I don't know how effective it was. You didn't see pistol ports after World War II really, and a number of things came to light after World War II as far as, you know, the bow machine gun, whether you actually needed 5 guys in the tank. I think the IS-2 was kind of on the leading edge of the way the modern MBTs would be crewed and the way they'd be set up. So as you can see, it's kind of boring, just putting the pistol ports on either side. So what happened with the IS-1, the IS-1 was an outgrowth of the KV series. The KVs always were kind of second fiddle to the T-34 because the KV, other than really heavy armor, the KV didn't bring any additional firepower to the field. It was slower, it was tough on bridges. In mixed units, it didn't work as well. So about the same time that they were upgunning the T-34 to the 85 after Kursk in 1943, they decided to do the same thing with the KV series. And again, what you ended up with a KV with an 85 millimeter gun in it, just like the T-34. And you still had those same problems, that you have a heavier tank, a slower tank, you've got different logistics, and it really isn't bringing you anything that makes that juice worth the squeeze. All right, so just in a moment here, what we're doing in the video is, we're putting the lifting eyes on the cheeks for the gun mount. Like I said before earlier, the gun mount and those cheeks, we'll call them, they were bolted from the inside, and they had lifting eyes, one on each side. So if you were going to take the gun out, or you needed to take the mount out, it'd get unbolted from the inside. You'd get a crane or some type of a wrecker, and you would take the gun out forward with the, using those lifting eyes. Just behind the lifting eyes on the cheeks, you've got them on the actual turret, where there were one on each side, and then there was one in the back. So as you watch me glue this on, I'll get back to the IS story. So you've got the IS now that really isn't giving you anything better than the T-34-85 has done, right? So the Russians were still at a time where, this was before the main battle tank, where there was a thing, they needed a heavy tank. They wanted a breakthrough tank, they'd call it. So they were developing, a better KV. And KV was for Clement Villeshorev, or however you pronounce that. He was the defense minister. and he had fallen kind of out of favor with Stalin by this time. So they decided to rename the program IS, Iosif Stalin. So maybe get some support. You would get Stalin's attention. Everybody likes to have things named after him. So, but you're still stuck with an 85 millimeter gun that's on the T-34-85, which is a better platform. It's faster. It's more maneuverable. It logistically, it's easier to support. So while this is going on, the Russians are thinking, okay, we need. So they make about 150, I think, of these these IS-85s, and they're not quite sure. I don't think any of them saw. But I haven't seen anything definitively where they were actually in action, where they saw combat. So I don't know if they did or didn't. So what they decided to do was they liked the 100 millimeter gun. Now they had the 100 millimeter gun in the Su-100, which is a T-34 chassis, but logistically they had problems with supporting that. So they were kind of discouraged from using the 100 millimeter gun for logistics reasons, and they ended up on looking at, it was a field gun. It was a 122 millimeter A-19 field gun, and they thought we can probably get this into this turret with a bit of modification. So what they ended up doing was they took the A-19 field gun, 122 millimeter. They made some changes to it. I believe they called it the D25, and that became the IS-122 with that modification. Initially, like an artillery piece, the 122 had a screw type breech, but for tankers and things, that's somewhat inefficient. So they quickly moved away from the screw type breech to the sliding block breech that everybody knows about, that everybody seems to be familiar with in tank guns. But one of the things they had to do was they couldn't have it as a complete round. So there was the round itself, and there was the powder. There was a powder bag that went in behind it with the propellant. So the tank ended up having 28 shots, but if you got hit with a 122 from an IS-2, it didn't matter if it went off or not. That was going to be a significant emotional impact. So what they ended up going back to do is they had these IS-85s, and they just modified them. And these had the broken nose, as they call it, because it was kind of a derivative, because the KV still had that flat plate there. So it was sort of a derivative from the KV. So you end up with these IS-85s and IS-122, and somewhere along the line they decided we're going to call one the IS-1 and the other the IS-2. And really that's how the IS-2 was born. And the IS-2 was used in separate regiments. It was used specifically in weak points in the German lines. The Russians wanted to put maximum pressure against the weakest points in the line. So with this big old thing rolling at you, it was pretty effective. Now there was a lot of inexperience with the crews, and you had things that they weren't used right, and they were losses. But as they got better, now just jumping back to the video, I'm putting the aft machine gun mount back in. One of the odd things again with the Russians, they had the 3-man turret crew, but they had an aft machine gunner, and in the KVs, he was the guy with the hatch, which never made any sense to me. The original KV, single hatch, and that guy who you see sticking up in the hatch, you would think is the commander. He's the rear machine gunner, and the commander is to the right, forward, with no way to look out. So the Russians are getting close, but they're just not there yet as far as how to man the turret, how to get those positions where they could be effective. But they are getting there. So what I normally do is the machine gun that sticks out the back is a very fragile piece. I won't put that on until after everything's painted and weathered, because it'll just end up getting knocked off. So you end up now the IS-2s are being fielded, and the Germans, it's kind of a shock to them. What's interesting is, and I've read this, 1943 really was the pinnacle of German tank design. I mean, you can talk about the Tiger and the Tiger II, but there really wasn't another leap forward after 1943, where with the Russians, they were getting into their second phase. The 85 was coming online. They were starting to move away from the KV series. Their assault guns were getting bigger guns. They were starting to move away from the T-34 chassis as a well, you might as well just call it a Russian Stug, and moving to either a KV chassis or later on the 122 chassis. So what I'm doing now is I've just put the gunner's periscope in, and it's kind of a throwback to the old, igloo type looking periscope. And I believe there was also a sight, a telescopic sight for the gunner also. Now I'm putting on the ventilator, and with a gun like the 122, you're going to need a strong ventilator, or you're just going to get smoked out inside. Then after that, there's that British style periscope cover for the loader's periscope. So with this, vision is increased where the commander actually has a proper cupola. He's got vision slits pretty much 360 around, where if he's closed down, he's not as blind as the initially were with the KVs and the early T-34s. Took the Russians a while to get to the point where they understood the necessity of a real cupola with vision. The hatches are still going to open up fore and aft. That's a very Russian thing. As an American, I don't understand that. It seems like that really exposes you if you're trying to look forward. So, but however they did it. So what I'm working on now is, I think, because I'm doing a voiceover here, so you'll have to let me catch up to the video, because I did the first one without the mic on. So if you're doing YouTube, always do an equipment check. What I'm putting on now it's the torsion bar for the loader's hatch. The commander's two-piece hatch wasn't too bad as far as weight, but the loader's hatch was a single round, like a big old manhole cover. So the Russians, just like torsion bars for the suspension, they had a torsion bar on the hatch, which made it easier to open and close. Closing is one thing, but if you got to get out of a tank in a hurry, you definitely want that hatch to just pop open. You don't want to be messing around with that. So let's see where we're at here. I think I've got all the turret bits that I wanted to get on. I've got the lifting hooks. I've got the periscopes. I think there's a tiny antenna I'm going to put on. And really it's the stub of the antenna base. Unless I'm doing a contest or I'm showing off, I normally don't do the antennas because they just get snapped off. If you're using stretch sprue, they're easy to snap off. A friend of mine used to use stainless steel wire, and boy, that was unbendable. And if it was super glued into the mount, that was going to break skin. So like I said, unless I'm doing something for a show or I really want to make something, special, I just put the mount in and I don't bother with the antenna because they normally get snapped off. This ends up in the bookcase. My wife will put Christmas cards around it. So it's your mileage may vary. Hopefully we'll get some shots. What I did was off camera was I put a cast texture on with the I'm pretty sure it's ammo, the ammo liquid putty, similar to Mr. Surfacer 500. Good products, gives you a bit of a texture. But I used stretch sprue for the weld seam going around the two halves of the turret, and I was pretty happy with the way that came out. The liquid glue I'm using now wasn't hot enough really to melt the stretch sprue like I was hoping. So I ended up getting permission to use a scented candle for my wife. Get a hot knife. You can see in the video right there. The hot knife, the hobby knife is a bit black. That's that's because that's how I was heating it up and just kind of melting the sprue. I got to be really careful. Like I've said in previous videos, I've had some bad experiences with heat and plastic where it just doesn't work out. What it looks like I'm doing here is the IS2s, the full production ones. They had individual grab handles that went around both the top of the turret and near the base of the turret. In my version of this IS2 conversion, I'm going to use the IS1 handrails because it just looks a bit different. So these will just go around the top of the turret for the tankists. And if you've ever seen, Russian tanks, the Russians, they had guys, they knew there was going to be guys on the tanks. They gave them something to hold on to, whereas the Americans with the Shermans, you were just kind of back there holding on for dear life. Where at least the Russians, I don't know if the Russians really thought in terms of agronomics, gave those guys something to hold on to. So as the tank's pounding its way across the steppe, you weren't going to get thrown off too far. And then you see all these guys hop off the tank while it's running and, and roll right into the attack. I can only imagine, the occasional tankist got ran over and didn't get a chance to die for Mother Russia by the German hands. He just got run over by the tank he just jumped off of. There's two pieces with this. There's a left and right, and normally what I do is I just cut them off the sprue because these pieces tend to be pretty fragile. I cut them off the sprue, get them in place, glue them in place, and once everything's solidified and cured, it's a lot easier for me to go back with a hobby knife to scrape off the flash, remove it with a bit of sandpaper, and then I'm not breaking these handles or launching them into space. So here you see the second one going on, and it's pretty symmetrical. I'm sure these pieces would have fit either way, but there was a left and right with them, and it pretty much goes around the turret. What else is nice about having these handles is I can attach a bit of stowage to it, for whatever the crew had, and it'll just add some color to the vehicle, because really it's just going to be a big green vehicle when we're done. We're going to do some things with weathering and modulation that'll dress it up. The other ISs I've done, I've been really pleased in how what you can do with a single color with a bit of Naples yellow and even a bit of white. When you grind that into the pigment, you can really make that pop. And with a bit of chipping, I'm pretty happy with the results. So let's see what I'm doing here. I'm just getting the grab handles to settle. Give this a minute. Give you guys a chance to digest what I'm talking about. Give me a chance to catch my breath. And we're still gluing there. So we'll see what happens. What should be coming up next, because I filmed this morning, realized I didn't have the microphone. So what's coming up next is the actual gun installation. And really, this is the heart of the conversion, putting that big old 122 in. Now, Trumpeter make an IS2. I believe they make an IS2M, capital M, which was a modified one after the war. You can get a 2-in-1 kit from Dragon if you can still find him. I've seen him in hobby shows where you can make either version. You can do an IS1 or 2. I just thought since I had the extra bottle, I've enjoyed the Trumpeter KVs, I thought, well, let's try a simple conversion. I've got the parts. I'm retired now, so I got the time. So I thought, let's do the conversion. So I cleaned up the Tamiya barrel. I had to go down to my stash, and if you're like me, you just have boxes of sprues. I've got them set up a box of Russian stuff, a box of American Sherman stuff, then just a box of everything else. So this is where we're at now. We should be getting close, and I'll show you the modification I had to do on the Tamiya gun barrel. Here we go, coming up. And got the muzzle brake on. I love the muzzle brake, love the barrel. Goes together, a little bit of putty, some sand, and you get it all cleaned up. And let's see if we can get this in the frame. You can see that's the bit I cut off the Tamiya barrel. That's the piece that slotted into the Tamiya mantlet on their kit. So initially, I wasn't sure how I was going to fit this in. So I came across, I'll just get a thick piece of sprue, which slid right into the hollow barrel, which was a great fit into the Tamiya, and I'm sorry, into the Trumpeter mantlet. So I thought, wow, this is a lot easier, and this will be a good solid fit. I won't have to worry about something that's, that'll drop off at the drop of the hat. So we're going to put a bit of glue in the mantlet, and we'll slide that barrel in. And what's nice about this, it's plastic, it's not super glue. I've got time to make sure the barrel is true, pointing up and down. I've got the correct, azimuth. I want to make sure that the muzzle brake is equal on both sides. And I want to make sure that it's not canted in the actual mount itself. So it looks like it's coming straight out, both up and down and side to side, and that it's lined up correctly. And using the glue, it's easier to do. You got a lot of working time, so you can see me just kind of doing this. I think we've all been here. You're just, and you're kind of tweaking it. You're kind of torquing it to get it to be straight. Because once it's set, it's a pain in the neck to redo. So if you get it, spend a little extra time here, you end up with that gun in here. And I'll let you see me fiddle with this and my non-scientific approach to barrel installation and truing a barrel in a mount. All right, so it looks like we're pretty happy here. And I am just putting on my goggles to make sure that the mount is true. I think we've got a true mount. I can tell you I'm just signing off here because I'm going over this. I may delete this part of it. It's not too exciting. It's just me kind of rabbiting on. Also, tell your friends about this. Not only are these videos good for a bit of tank information, they will also help you sleep. So if you're having a problem sleeping at night, these are the perfect things to put on at night. So by the end of this video, if you're not informed about Russian tanks, you will be sound asleep. So here's the end. Here's the finished product. Looking good. I think it looks good. It should be me coming up, signing off. Broncos won this weekend. Somehow we beat the Eagles. I don't know how, but a win is a win, and I'll take that. You guys keep building. You guys enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you in the next video. Because the next video, I should have some paint on this, and we'll do the weathering process. And right now, I don't know. It looks like an old bad kung fu movie where they dub over in English all the Chinese that's going on. I'm not sure how much longer this is going to run for. So, like I said, get out there, build those kits, have a bit of fun. As long as you're making your next model better than your last model, try some different techniques. If you've got an old beat-up kit, that's where I do a lot of experimenting on. And you guys enjoy the rest of your week. I think this is coming to an end. We'll see you next time. Steve out.